It's Kumtai. So this week it's Parshas Behaloscha, and in this week's parsha we have a pasuk as follows: two psukim actually. V'chisa voyu milchama ba'artzachem al hatzar hatzoyreir eschem. If you'll go to war in your land against the enemy that's oppressing you, al hatzar hatzoyreir eschem v'harei oisem b'chatzoitzrois. So we sound the chatzoitzrois. We make a trua with the chatzotzeros v'niskartem l'fnei Hashem Elokeichem. You'll be remembered before HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'noishatem me'oivechem. You'll be saved from your enemies. U'v'yom simchaschem u'v'moyadeichem. On the days of happiness and your festivals, yeah. V'roshei chodshechem u'skartem v'chatzotzeros al oiloiseichem v'al zivchei shalmeichem. As we bring the karbonis, we also have uskatem b'chatzoitzros. Actually, it was blended into the Shiras Halavim. V'hoyu lachem lezikaron l'fnei Hashem Elokeichem ani Hashem Elokeichem. So you know the first pasuk is talking about a matzav of distress, yeah, a matzav of tzara, a matzav of war. And from here we bemis learn, from this pasuk we learn that there's a mitzvah sasei min haTorah of truah b'shas tefillah al hatzara. The Rambam says in the beginning of Hilchos Tiny, "Ois mitzvahs hasei min haTorah liz oik," which is tefillah, uloharia b'chatzoitzeros al kol tzara shetovay al hatzibur shenemar al hatzar hatzoirer eschem v'arei oisem b'chatzoitzeros. Kloimar, it's not only a war, says the Rambam, kol davar sheyitzer lochem kegoin batzoires. Say there's a famine, dever, there's a plague, v'arbe, etc. So kol davar sheyitzer lochem. So there's a mitzvah of lizoik and to be meiria b'chatzoitzeros. Okay, so then on the other hand, the next pasuk is talking about using those chatzoitzeros, those same chatzoitzeros for tkiyas of simcha. B'yom simchaschem u'b'moyadeichem. The tkiyas that are done in the context of the karbonis hayoim, when we're it's tkiyas of happiness. You know, the Ramban in his hasogois to the Sefer HaMitzvahs in Shoresh Aleph, he's talking about the Shitas HaBahag that counted Hallel as a mitzvah saseh midoraisa. So and the Rambam attacks that, and the Ramban writes, "V'hanira midivreim shehu min haTorah." V'yeh halacha l'Moshe miSinai. It would seem from Chazal that it's a mitzvah saseh min haTorah, and it's halacha l'Moshe miSinai. Oy shehu bechlal hasimcha shenitztavinu bo. Or perhaps, says the Ramban, Hallel is included in the mitzvah of simcha shenitztavinu bo, k'moishe kosuv, v'yoyim simchaschem, u'b'moyadeichem, u'b'roshei chodshechem, u'skartem b'chatzoitzros. Ki ikar ashira b'peh, u'kli l'vsume kolu. So the Ramban is saying that really the ikar shira is b'peh, and that's why Hallel is a chiyuv min haTorah, and the chatzoitzros are just to accompany the shira b'peh, which is the Hallel. V'nitztavinu b'simchas hashir al hakorban v'shaloi b'shas hakorban b'chlal hasimcha. Elo shemiatu rosh chodesh b'gvulim b'pnei she'enim kodesh l'chag v'enim toron shira. Anyway, what I'm trying to bring out is that these tkiyas are tkiyas of happiness. It's interesting that the Torah mentions in one pasuk after the other, yeah, one of them is a tefillah that's coming min hametzar karosiko, and the other one is as we rejoice over the karbonis on the chagim and on the moyadim. So you know the Ibn Ezra on the pasuk of Yom Simchaschem u'Moyadeichem says Sheshavtem me'eretz oyev. What is this day of Simchaschem? This day of happiness that you came back from a war. Oynitzachtem ha'oyev habo aleichem. You won over the enemy that came into your land. V'kavartem yom simcha ki yemei Purim v'shivas yemei Chizkiyah. Yeah, that appears in the Ayom and Beis, Kapitel Lamed. And And so the Rak Hamatikim Pirshu Uvayom Simchaschem Shabbos Hatkiya Sheyishmu Yisrael V'Yedu Ki Ha'oilois Yakrivu V'Yechabnu Livam Lashem. So, in other words, the Ibn Ezra learned al Pipshute Shel Mikra that B'Yom Simchaschem means the day that you won the war. It's probably the reason that he wanted to learn that way is because otherwise it's hard to understand the connection between these two psukim. So he's really saying, it means when you won the war, then you blow the chatzos. But he admits that the ma'atikim, which means chazal, the ma'atike hashmua, learned not like that. It's talking about the karbonis hamigdosh on Shabbos v'yomim tovim. So the question obviously remains, so why did the Torah put these things together? Why? Why did the Torah put these things together? B'shas, it's like a totally different thing. You know, the Rambam in the Sefer Mitzvahs, Haseinu and Tes, says, He shetzivonu leskoya b'chatzoitzrois b'mikdosh im hakrovas hakorbon mikorbonei hamoyadois. So this is a tzivui to blow in the mikdosh by the karbonis. V'chein anachnu mitzuvim leskoya b'chatzoitzrois b'itois hatzorich v'hatzorois k'shenizak l'fnei Hashem yisala. So the Rambam counts actually both of these things in one mitzvah in the minyan mitzvahs, and that l'chora is a pella because it's two separate psukim and two totally different matzavim. I mean, one is a tkiyah of simcha, one is a tkiyah of tefillah, and why in the world should this be considered one mitzvah in the minyan mitzvahs? So the Rav HaMagid in the beginning of Hilchas Tainiyos writes about this. V'ra'isi l'Rabbeinu b'sefer ha'mitzvahs shaloi shemonot tkiyah zu u'tkiyah sheb'shas ha'korbonis. Tkiyah zu meaning the tkiyah of tainus, the tkiyah of tzora, and the tkiyah sheb'shas ha'korbonis u'be'es ha'tzoris bein b'mikdosh bein b'dvulin b'mitzvah achas v'toma ani loma. I don't understand why. Harei shnei psukim ein bakosuf v'nireh shedaito izal she'amitzvah He achas klolis. It's one general mitzvah. L'skoya b'chatzoyis b'migdosh be'eis hakorbonos, to blow, to sound those trumpets in the migdosh be'eis hakorbonos u'be'eis hatzoros bein b'migdosh bein b'gvulim ve'ein roilim noisim b'shtei mitzvahs v'oit tzorechiyun. This is the end of the quote of the Rav HaMagid. Actually, the only thing that we understand of this Rav HaMagid is the v'oit tzorechiyun, because what did he say? I mean, he asked the question, why is it one mitzvah? And then he wrote a line that we don't understand what he's saying. Yeah, and yeah, we don't understand. So what's the pshat? So you know the Magen Avram in the beginning of Siman Tov Kuf Ayin Vov in Orach Chaim, yeah, says, Ani Tomo, Lama ein anu noyagim litkoya beis tzora. He doesn't know, why don't we sound trumpets on a day of tzora when we have a tainus for or even without a tainus, when we're being mispal, when there's a tzora al tzibur. He says va'afal pish ein tainus tzibur bebavel, which would include the night also. Mikol mokim haloi midoiraisa mitzvah litkoya beloy tainus. I mean, the mitzvah is not connected with tainus. So why? One does the Magen Avram. Why don't we do it? Now, you know, in the Chinuch, mitzvah Shimpei Dalet, in the end of the mitzvah, he says, V'noi heges mitzvah zoi bizman habayis. He says about this mitzvah of Eskatem b'chatzoytzros, he says, V'noi heges mitzvah zu bizman habayis b'koyanim she'aleim ha-mitzvah l'vkoya b'chatzoytzros v'im ovru al zeh v'loi toku b'shas ha-korban v'chein so the Chinuch clearly says that the mitzvah zoi, which includes also the tkiyas shal hakorban and also the tkiyas be'eis hatzoros, he says it's neheges bizman habayis only. So we understand why we're not noeg l'tkoya. But be'emes we don't know, where did the Mechus Chinuch get from that it's totally in this man habayis. In other Rishonim, it's not mentioned. And this that the Chinuch says that it's the Koyanim that blow. Also by the Tkiyas of Eis Tzara, it's also not clear where this comes from, because in Masechtes Tamid Perek Zayin, it says that the Koyanim were those that blew al hakorban. But who says that that's also true about the Tkiyas of Eis Tzara? And l'chora, I mean, why would Koyanim have a special role in the Tkiyas, B'shas Milchama, or any other Tzara, which are taking place Bigvulin, which is not Avodas HaMikdash? I mean, why would it be something that the Koyanim do? The Rambam in Perek Daled Milchas Tiny is Halachat Tezvav. He brings the lashon of the Mishnah in the beginning of the second Perek in Tainis, which is talking about the Seder Tfilas HaTainis on the Har HaBayis. It says over there, "V'chazan haknesses oimer latoikim tiku b'nei aharim tiku." So it says over there the Koyanim, but the Rambam doesn't mention that the Tkiyas she'al hatzora b'gvulin are done by Koyanim. The Minchas Chinuch assumes that the Rambam holds that it's always with Koyanim, and he relied on what he wrote over here about the Tkiyas on the Har HaBayis, that we will understand that the same is about the Tkiyas b'gvulin be'eis tzara, which is what it says in the Chinuch, Okay, so now in the Rabbi Yaakov Emden in the Moiruk Tzia, on the end of Siman Tov Kufayim Vav, he wants to answer the Magen Avraham's question why we don't do Trua b'Chatzotzres be'eis tzara, and he says, "V'nireli poshut she'eino mitzvah asay elo be'eretz Yisrael b'lvad." First, he wants to say it's only a mitzvah in Eretz Yisrael. U'mikra moli dibra kosav v'chisavoyu mulchama ba'arsechem v'akula milsa the basrei namikoi. So it's only in Eretz Yisrael. But that would only answer why it's not done in Chutz La'aretz. But then he adds, "Gam ein ha-mitzvah elo b'kohanim u'b'chatzotzros v'ha'idna leke kohanim miyuchosim v'lo chatzotzros shel Torah mishum hachi mistavra d'afil b'Eretz Yisrael lesa mitzvah hashta v'lo shamanu sheyinagu kein b'Eretz Yisrael b'zman hazeh." Yes, so he has three answers. One is that it's only in Eretz Yisrael, but even in Eretz Yisrael he says it's only b'kohanim, and we don't have kohanim miyuchosim, which is a little bit hard to understand. We don't have kohanim miyuchosim, let it be. But our kohanim l'maisa duchen, and they run into a risk of making a bracha levatola sheikh deshonu b'kdushasei shel Aaron. So, and over here there's actually no downside. I mean, if we would have kohanim who we consider to be kohanim blow the chatzaitzres, I mean, there was no avera done, even if they're not really kohanim. So it's not clear why we would need kohanim miyuchasim. But this that he says that we need chatzaitzros, and we don't have the chatzaitzros shel Torah. I mean, what in the world does he mean? We can't make chatzaitzros kesef. I mean, what does it mean? We don't have the chatzaitzros shel Torah. But truth be told, that Rabbi Yaakov Emden was mechaven to the Ritva, which he didn't see, because the Magen Avram's question why we don't do chatzaitzres on a tzara, this question already appears in the Ritva in Tainis Daf Yudalad Amid Aleph. He's discussing over there at length the Shaklavatari and the Rishonim, if the Trua on a Tainis is with a shofar like they did in Yericho, and as it's mashma over there in Tainis Daf Yudalad, or it's with a chatzaitzres, as it says in Rosh Hashanah Daf Chavav. Yeah, and after he decides that it's with chatzaitzres, he writes now, Ulefi svara zu nagu b'tzorfas, based on this, that it's really supposed to be done with chatzaitzres. The minig is in France, sheloy litkoya la'olam b'tainis tzibur, kiven she'ein lanu chatzaitzres. So he's saying exactly what the Moiruk Tzia said, that we don't have chatzaitzres. Yeah, but what does it mean? Why don't we have chatzaitzres? Why can't we make chatzaitzres? I mean, shofars we could have. I mean, why can't we make chatzaitzres? All it requires chatzaitzres kesef. So there's a tshuva that Reb Moshe Feinstein Zechrono Levracha has in the Igris Moshe Chelik Aleph Siman Kuf Samach Tes. I'll read you his lashon because I don't understand what he's saying. He says, Hine lani is daiti mashma, shel ha'soivrim, he says this on his own, shel ha'soivrim she'atki'i b'chatzoitzrois, tzorich davke be'elu ha'chatzoitzrois she'na'asu litkoya b'hem b'migdash davke. That the mitzvah is to blow with chatzoitzrois that were made for tkiyas ha'migdash. L'chein niche, ma she'kol al ha'rambam l'mitzvah achas, ha'tkiyos shebe'es ha'korbonois, v'atkiyos shebe'itois ha'tzorah v'chulei. Mishum detzorich davke chatzoitzrois shebe'migdash. L'chein mefarish. Yes, and now he's trying to explain, so how did the Rambam get to the idea that this is one mitzvah? Because you need to have those same chatzoitzrois that you blow with al hakorban, and therefore the Rambam understood that the mitzvah is l'chein mefarish shahavya mitzvah ma lasois b'chatzoitzrois shetzivsa haTorah lasois bohen ze v'ze shehi memela mitzvah achas kol ma shetoikim b'hem. So I mean, this definition of the mitzvah is really like incomprehensible. I mean, where he's saying that the mitzvah is that the chatzoitzrois need to be used for two purposes, for two different things, and therefore it's mehilchas the chatzoitzrois, and therefore it's one mitzvah. But Rebbeinu Shalom, what is that supposed to mean? I mean, it's a mitzvah in the chatzoitzrois, it's a kiyum in the chatzoitzrois, it's avada chayvas gavra to blow al hakarbonas and to blow beis tzara. Even if it's true that you have to use the same chatzoitzrois, but is that a mitzvah in the chatzoitzrois? So I want to explain it in a different way. You know, the Cheskuni on this pasuk says, "V'chisavoyu mulchama al hatzar hatzar eschem v'goyme v'niskartem lifnei Hashem v'goyme v'hoylech umefaresh heich yiyu nizkorin." The pasuk goes on. This was pasuk tes. Pasuk yud goes on to explain how will we be remembered through our truos b'shas mulchama, and how shaharei. Ubiyoim simchaschem, dahainu b'moyadeichem, uskatem al oiloiseichem, ukeshetisku v'toriu lemilchama, yizkor lochem schus hakorbonos v'noishatem. So he's saying that it's not the truest of Shas Milchama on their own don't bring about the zikorin l'fnei Hashem Elokeichem through which we are zoicher to salvation. No. He says that you're going to be wondering, so to speak. I mean, how are you going to be remembered through the truos of the Shas Milchama? Pshat is, the pasuk is hoylech umefarish. Shaharei, b'yoim simchaschem u'b'moyadeichem. You're going to be uskatem aloseichem. So Mamela, when you're going to blow b'shas tzara, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to remember the tkiyas of the Shas Karbonis, and Mamela v'noishatem. So this is like a very creative pshat l'chor in the psukim, but it explains how it's really one mitzvah. But the Cheskuni didn't make this up on his own. Really, it seems like it comes from the Sifri, because the Sifri says v'harei oisem b'chatzoitzrois. Rabbi Akiva oimer v'chi chatzoitzrois maskirois. Chatzoitzrois bring up, have us be remembered by the Rebbeinu Shalom. V'haloi damim maskirim. The blood is what brings zikaron. Elo she'im yecholim loharia v'lo heiriu. If we have the opportunity to be meiria b'shas tzora, and we weren't meiria, mala aleim hakosuf ki'ilu lo yhuzkaru lefnei hamokim. Very sosum what the Sifri is saying. When it says in the Sifri, v'haloi damim maskirim, the Sifri is asking, it's damim that brings zikaron. So the Magen Avraham in the Hagoy Zayis Ranon, in the Yalkut Shimoni, he says, Behaloscha, the Mei HaKarbonis Mechaprim. I mean, Damim Maskirim means the Mei HaKarbonis Mechaprim. Inami Pirish Damim means Tainis, which is Miut Chelbam V'Damam. Okay, but according to the first derech of the Magen Avraham, that Damim Maskirim means the Karbonis. It's exactly what the Cheskuni is saying. Is really saying what Rebbe Akiva said, that the Yeshua comes through the remembrance of the Karbonis. The Trua of Shas Milchama brings about the remembrance of the Tkiya b'Shas Karban, and since the Karbonis are remembered, so So v'noishatem. That means you know that in Tilim Kapitel Chaf it says Yancha Hashem b'yom tzara, etc. Yishlach Ezrecha mikodesh u mitzion yisadeka yizkor kol min chaysecha v'oiloscha yidash nesela. So the Ibn Ezra first of all says over there that Yom Tzara is a Yom Tzaras Milchama. And then he says, Yizkor, Pirush, Lama Yazreka, why will Hashem help you? Ki Yizkor kol min chaysecha. He'll remember the karbonis that you brought. V'zehu hakosov b'toyre v'hariyoisem v'chatzoitzrois v'nizkartem v'noishatem. You read this Ibn Ezra and you don't know what he's talking about. Yeah? I mean, he says, he says, that's what it says in the Torah. It says, it says over there that it'll be a Yishlach Ezra Chamikoidesh and it'll be a Yizkor Kol Mechaisecha. So it's clear that the Ibn Ezra is learning like the Chizkuni, which is rooted in the Sifri, that it's not the truois of Milchama on their own that bring about the V'niskartem L'fnei Hashem Elokeichem, but it's the truois of Milchama that are maskir the tkiyas of Shas Korban, and we're saved mikoyach the schus of the Korbanis, and that's what he's saying, that Yancha Hashem b'Yom Tzara, which is the Yom Tzara's Milchama, is going to be in a way of Yishlach Ezricha Mikodesh. And how? Because Yizkor Kol Mechaisecha, and on that he says, Lama Yazrecha, says the Ibn Ezra, Ki Yizkor Kol Mechaisecha, V'zeu HaKosim B'Torah, V'ariyosim B'chatzoisis, V'nizkartem V'neishatem. It's clear that this is based on this reading of the Pasuk. And Be'emes the Ibn Ezra is following his Shita in his Sefer Yesoid Moira, which is quoted in Rabbi Yerucham Fishel Perlo's Pirush on the Sefer HaMitzvahs, the Reb Savji Goin in the end of Mitzvah Tes Zayin. And over there it says, the Ibn Ezra writes in the Sefer Yesoid Moira, V'tziva lo haria b'chatzoitzrois al ha'oilois, lios lezikoron b'hariyom b'mochama. So the Ibn Ezra over here is saying something even much further. He's saying that the Torah told us to sound the trumpets over the karbonis, only in order that when we'll sound the trumpets over the b'shas Milchama, it'll bring the memory of the karbonis before the Rebbeinu Shalom. In other words, really the truest of Shas Korban are not there for themselves. They're only there to have that we should have the ability to be maskir the karbonis b'shas Milchama. How is that? The Torah gave a mitzvah of trua b'shas Korban, and Memela, when we'll do the trua b'shas Eis Tzara, it'll be a reminder of the karbonis. This is what he says: V'tziva loharia b'chatzoitzrois al ha'oilois liyois lizikorin b'hariyam b'milchama. Right, the whole mitzvah of the chatzoitzrois b'shas Korban is in order that the chatzoitzes of Shas Milchama should bring the memory of the karbonis. So we understand now that it's one mitzvah. It's one mitzvah because they're both a chelik of one mitzvah. We understand also that even though the truois of Milchama are bigvulin, and they have nothing to do with avodas hamikdash, but nevertheless they have to be done by kohanim, because we need that those truois should be dumye de mikdash. It needs to be a reminder of the truois of the mikdash, and that also explains why we really need chatzoitzrois shel mikdash shetoikim behem ala korban. And today we don't have chatzoitzrois shel mikdash that we would take care of behem ala korban, or we would be take care of behem ala korban, and therefore it's not a reminder of karbanis, and therefore today the whole thing is not shaykh. Yeah. Now this lashon that Rebbe Akiva said that even though damim maskirim, but im yecholim loharia v'lo heiriu mala aleim hakosakilu lo yuskaru l'fnei hamokim. So it really means that the huzkaru l'fnei hamokim that took place b'shas ha'akravas ha'korban really goes on beyond the there and then, and but only in as much as we are still connected to that zikaron. In other words, we could have the schus of the karbonis in as much as that memory has a presence in our life, and therefore we need im yicholim laharia v'loy heiriu. It's as if we never brought the karbonis because we disconnected from that experience. Whereas if it's ein yicholim, and I guess Rabbi Akiva, who lived in the door of the Churban, was actually being merames that in a time that you can't, so then really connecting emotionally and mentally to that experience will suffice. It's just im yecholim lo ariya v'lo heiriu. It's malol of akosov, as if it never happened. Now, I just want to say one thing. The we would think that the when it's a tsar hatzorer eschem, at that point we're in a tremendous awakening of tshuva. Yeah, as Rashi, as Chazal say, anu paroi hikriv. Zogen Chazal, hikriv libon shel Yisrael avim shemayim. When we're in distress, I mean, we turn to the Rebbeinu Shalom. So, I mean, why would we need at that point the schus of the truest of Shas Karbonis, which is done b'yom simchaschem u'b'moyadechem? We would consider the avodah of Yom Tzara, Yancha Hashem b'Yom Tzara. We would consider that much greater than the Yizkor Kol Min Chosecha. But here we see that we're only saved in the Yom Tzara because Hashem remembers. We remember, and therefore He remembers the Min Chosecha. He remembers the karbonis that that we did mitoich simcha. What's the pshat in that? So you see, I mean, the pasuk says, "Vayesor Yosef merkavtoi, vayal likras Yisrael oviv goishna, vayera elav, vayipol al tzavora, vayevkal tzavorav oid, vayomer Yisrael el Yosef amusa hapam, achrei ra'oisi panecha ki oidcha chai." What are these two psukim? What's the connection of these two psukim? But you know that Rashi brings in the name of Chazal that Yaakov loy nofal al savora v'loy neshokoi shoyakores shema. Yaakov was learning Shema at that point. So they all ask, I mean, if Yosef wasn't learning Shema, probably it is because he already learned Shema. So why did Yaakov not learn Shema before? So, the Tur in Arachaim in the beginning of Siman Samach Aleph says, Yikra Shema bekavone be'eme B'yira b'reses v'ziyah. Says the Bach, v'nira de ema v'yira zoi, hi ba'oifen zeh, sheyichaven b'shoshu koirei hashma, lekabel olov, oil malchus shamayim, li yois nerag al kiddush Hashem ha'miyuchad. Dezeu b'chol nafshecha, afilu u'noitles nafshecha, v'al zeh nemar ki olecha hoiragnu kol hayoim. So the kavonas kriya shema is the readiness to give my life up al kiddush shmoy. Now, during all those years that Yaakov was in pain because he missed Yosef and he was vayimoyen lehisnachim, and he lived with the hargosha of ki ered el beni ovel sha'oila, so he had no life. In that, when you're in that condition, it's no chiddush that you're willing to give up your life. Your life is not a life b'chlal. Yeah, it's like lama lichaim. But when now that he sees Yosef, he came back to life. He came back to life. This is now an opportunity to give up what he has for the Rebbeinu Shalom, to give up his life. So that's what he says. Vayomer Yisrael Yosef amusa hapam achrei ra'osi panecha ki yoytcha chai. Now I can die. In other words, until now I was a living dead man, right? But now that I'm actually alive again, I can die for the Rebbeinu Shalom. So he learned Kriya Shema, because the Kriya Shema that he learned during the 22 years when he didn't have Yosef, it was lacking in its shleimus, because the Iker Indian of Kriya Shema is the willingness to give your life up. So therefore I say that contrary to what we think, that the avoida mitoich distress and mitoich tzara is greater than the avoida mitoich simcha, it's vice versa. The Yizkar Kol Min Chosecha b'yom tzara, big deal. I mean, you turn to the Rebbeinu Shalom, you have nothing else. But the fact that you turn to the Rebbeinu Shalom where everything is going good, and you celebrate with the Rebbeinu Shalom's presence in your life, Aloy Leisechem, Val Zivche Shalmechem. That's the big avodah. And that really is important to remember because, we look, sometimes we think, I mean, the previous generations, I mean, they had things were so difficult. I mean, poverty and xeris and everything went wrong. And nevertheless, they learned Torah and they did mitzvahs. I mean, we look at that, and rightfully so, we look at that as a tremendous madrega, but that's also tachbulas hayetzer to make us feel that what we do has no value because we have everything. I mean, so, I mean, big deal. Big deal that we are Mekayim mitzvahs, big deal that we learn Torah. But yeah, it's a bigger deal because b'yom simchaschem u'b'moyadechem is a bigger deal than kisavoyu milchama ba'artzechem al atzar hatzor eschem. The Rebbeinu Shalom has a greater appreciation for this, and you know that we all believe and hope that the avodah of our generation is what's paving the way for Bias HaMashiach. How could it be? I mean, they suffered so much, they worked so hard against all odds. I mean, the Gzeres HaMalchus and the poverty, and that wasn't enough to bring Mashiach, and we're going to bring Mashiach. But the answer is yes, because our avodah is an avodah of B'yoyim Simchaschem or B'moyadechem, V'hariyosim B'chatzotzres, and that's really the higher level of avodah if we're zoiche. Anyway, Rabbi say, so you know that I see Chanina. There's a rumor that you're becoming 50, or you became 50 this week. So it's really in the end of the Yom because it says by Levi, Ben Chamishim, Yoshev Mitzvah Avodah. So and Chanina Nachman David Avram Menachem Mendel, yes, the Levi. So the thing is like this. So it says in the Mishnah in Ovis that a Ben Chamishim La'etza. You know what the Rav says? That Ben Chamishim La'etza, because it says Yoshev Mitzvah Avodah V'Sheres Esechav. How is he going to be B'Sheres Esechav? We'll give them Eitzes. That's what the Rav says on the Mishnah. But I like too that the Pshat is like this. Kolzman, your hands on. It's hard to give Eitzes. You have to be a bit removed. So the Ben Chamishim that's Yoshev Mitzvah Avodah, he's already in the position of objectivity that he can give eitzes. But really, I mean, the pshat is that he's Yoshev Mitzvah Avodah is only L'gabi Masa. There's a machlokes Rishonim L'gabi Shira, but all other things the Levi does and does even more than he did before. So I wish you well. Okay, Zaygiz.